Yeah, man. But man, great to have you on the show and everything like that. For those of you who don't know, this is Kyle Doran. Is that correct? All right,
Mhm.
Doran of Thenetvr. He and I met at a Austin Connections meetup almost 2 years ago now, and I told him I was like, I'm going to bring the show back. You're going to be the first guest. Bring it back, and we're just going to jump into it. So I think like basically with it, I wanted to start with like, what's the background? How did you get into this culture and this industry?
I mean, as a kid, I feel like most kids, some people just gravitate towards gaming and others don't. I mean, right? How old were you when you picked up your first video game?
Man, I'm trying to think because I just remember playing Frogger on the PS1 rented from Blockbuster.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But before that, probably Game Boy game, Game Boy and then Game Boy Color. That was
I
me.
mean, yeah. That's exactly where I started too. So, I mean, that's what got me into the industry. Of super. I love the virtual world. I guess I've always done better in the virtual world than I have in the real world. I guess kind of is an interesting way to put it. But yeah, just dealing with text messaging. I love text messaging. Like for me, that's the virtual space. But gaming itself, I mean, opens up a lot of doors because I mean, back then we were able to play with these color displays and stuff, which really kind of increase the immersion level. So yeah, that's where I started, I guess, in gaming.
So then as far as like you're talking about text messaging and all of that, were you like an early adopter of like smartphone and all of that, or did you like, because I remember I was like I had a BlackBerry in middle school, and there was this game on the BlackBerry where the goal was to be the drug dealer. I think it was just called Drug Dealer. And like you would go and we would just like sell like cocaine, crack, all this stuff. And it was this like, you would die if you make enough money or if you messed up. But man, I was on that BlackBerry. I played Snake on there too. But I remember the first time I got I think it was Samsung Chocolate or something like that. It was like an Android phone like this. I didn't get that first Android phone that came to the US. It was like a white phone, and it was only on 18. But what about you? Like, what was your first like smartphone?
I mean, my first phone was a Nokia, like the old brick Nokias. I mean,
Brick.
we had Snakes. We they're indestructible, and yeah, we were text messaging. You had to press three numbers to get one letter right.
Yeah.
But yeah,
T9.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
I guess that was what I thought. I mean, I guess it's not a smartphone. What people think of, a lot of people think like a smartphone is like able to do pictures, and most people
internet.
won't even realize what an old Nokia telephone was. But I mean, when you had text messaging, I feel like that really was when the first smartphone was there. But a lot of people would be like, no, it wasn't. I'm like, well, it was sending data through text messages. It was data and sending over, and then it was being decoded on the other side and recoded. It just because it was so kind of, I guess people thought lame maybe, or not enough to consider it virtual reality. Per my eyesight, if you're encoding anything into bits, you're doing something in the virtual space.
Dude, this is opening so much for me. So like, were you a Razor guy? Did you get a Motorola Razor?
Oh yeah, I totally had it. I mean, I worked at Radio Shack, so cell phones were like our spit, right? So I had all the latest and greatest phones. I mean, I was ordering phones from Europe to try them out, like, because I mean, we got SIM cards all the time. We were just plopping them in and out, and it's very interesting to see like the mechanics of phones and like what country has what. It's amazing. It really is. There's a lot out there that I think most people probably aren't quite privy to.
So man, you got the chance to work at Radio Shack. I never did that. I did the Walmart thing.
Okay.
I was like in the electronics section. As soon as I like between like almost graduating college and whatnot, I did that during the seasonal time. And I was like, I copped all the video games during Black Friday, all that stuff. But like with the Razor phone, I remember in high school, my buddy got it, and it had, it was like, well, today you would call it it'd be like the equivalent of Candy Crush, but it had like Bejeweled or something on it. And I was like, I'd play his stuff in the cafeteria. I'd be playing on his phone because I never got any of the stuff. I had the Android later on, but like I didn't get the Motorola and I didn't get an iPhone. And it was everybody had an iPod, then the iPod Pro or whatever it was, and then and that was just sort of what it was. And then so I never really I wouldn't say I even really got into mobile gaming, or anything like that. But the reason why we're really talking about this is because communication, like you brought up text messaging. And your platform is very communication based. And so I guess maybe we can start talking about, the NetVR and how did you come across this and what were you doing before? Did you have a project before that kind of developed into that idea?
We had an idea, and we basically I said, hey, I want to do my own startup. And so, we thought, hey, what can we get into gaming? And so we were gamers, and I mean, I'm a gamer. I don't qualify myself as that. And we picked up headband displays, and we were like, all right, let's do something in virtual reality. Started looking at the market and like looking at the business trends on it, and we were like, hey, there's not much there. It's not really venture scalable. People use head-mounted displays less than a minute per day, where your screen time on a phone or a gaming device is 3 to 8 hours these days. So our initial goal was we put head-mounted displays on and we ran in and we got into this mall, the shopping mall. It was fun. It allowed us to kind of collaborate together. We were running around kind of gaming together. Oh, hey, we go shopping over there. We go shopping over there. I realized just at the beginning it was too much. And I mean, throughout that process of developing that, I mean, I watched our one of our lead coders at the time who's basically taking the headset off 90% of the time to do all of the coding. And I was like, well, why don't we just play the game just right there? Like, why do we have to have that headset? And they're like, oh, interesting.
Dirty desky.
So
but we're all in the meat space though. So, I mean, we're doing our thing.
Yep. And so, I mean, that's just kind of where it started and evolved. It really evolved from this, idea being, more social, like more social shopping. You go to Amazon, you don't get to be social. You don't get to shop anymore. But how many times in my generation, we'd go to the mall. Hey, we text each other. Hey, I'll meet you at the mall. Well, and then you run around the mall for, an hour or two. And then, you go home with something in your pocket, but you just don't get to do that anymore. But that experience, that communication level, the growth that I was able to have with my friends when we were there, the people that we, hung out with, met, saw, is super valuable to.
Yeah. And so a little bit of, I guess you didn't mention it, but you had a little bit of a streaming background as well, right? So like, and you still do stream from time to time. So you are like a practitioner in that aspect. You're not like a culture vulture. So like, you're a part of it. It's not like the primary thing, but how do you balance the entrepreneurship and also like the marketing side? Like you're going to do a lot of the, work on the back end, but then you also have to sell it. So like, what is your mindset in that regard?
I mean, for me, I picked up I had a roommate and he gave me his old PC and he's like, come play video games with me. And I was like, no, I'm not getting back in there. I'm not. After college, I said, hey, gaming. When I graduated college, tournaments were giving out 4th and 5th place, 1 and 2 Bitcoin. So like to understand where gaming was back then, it just wasn't profitable. It just didn't have a way for you to make a family, put food on your table consistently. And so we branched away from video gaming. Our passion growing up all the way through high school, all the way through college, doing something in that virtual space, kind of gave that up. And then my roommate, again, go back to my roommate, he gave me his PC and I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And we did it. He got me. And then I just got rehooked and I said, okay, I'm going to do something in this space. Back 7 years ago, there were content creators starting to blow up. They're starting to make huge strides. They were making a living. They're, Shroud, I think was the big guy at the time. But I mean, these guys were making well over 7 figures with the content creation side of it. So there was space for us to be able to do something in there. And so I started streaming just to dabble in it. I mean, I was video gaming. I'm technical enough to like, hey, why not stream? Like, if you're going to play a video game and waste time, why not share it? Like there's somebody out there that might want to watch. And I built a little small community and love that little community. It's tiny. It's not going to make any money, but I'm thankful Twitch has the platform that allows people to connect that way.
Man, you hit on so many points, but I don't want to like let the Bitcoin thing go away because it's like, man, it's something that I missed, man. I did not tap into that whenever it was happening, like early on, like the video game aspect of it. I wasn't that familiar with it. I kind of like heard from the grapevine, like Mount Gox. Oh, it's related to Magic the Gathering. Like I knew kind of like, okay, there's something gaming related to it, but I didn't really get in touch with it, get my hands on it until 2015, really. Even though I heard it on, I was on campus at the University of Hawaii at the time, and I would hear like, oh, Bitcoin hit $2, Bitcoin, and I'm like, oh, what is that? Like, ain't nobody doing anything with that. But like, I remember like, and I don't know why this is connecting with me right now, but like the Oregon Trail in computer lab, That's what Bitcoin felt like to me at that time. And I was like, whatever. That's just something that's like, it's a fad or whatever, like, I don't know. I was boomering, when I was, and so like, man, I want, before we jump into Web3, I want to go back to that last point you made about the Twitch community. Like, how important do you think community is in the new creator economy, passion economy, digital economy that we're in now?
It's huge. It's massive. I mean, I go to conferences, and if you go to a TwitchCon, it's amazing there. Like, it really, like, there are just little niche communities, and the people are excited to be there. They get to meet each other in real life. I mean, these are communities that are virtual 95% of the time, because they form these communities, and it's just, they're uber nerds. I'm not gonna say they're not. They're a lot of nerds, but it's awesome to see, and it's awesome to be around. When you're around positive, healthy communities, it's really empowering. It's really awesome to see. I mean, go to a lot of kind of like, I've been to like oh my goodness, I can't, what's the one in January? PAX, not PAX, the Consumer Electronics Summit. And
CES, yeah.
CES. And I mean, there's kind of communities in there, but it's more just big overarching tech, and they're just big that, and they're just so big that you can't really have a community, because it's just too big. It's just too corporatized. And those don't typically kind of pan out. I mean, if you go to PAX is okay. It's a little bit better, but I mean, you have a lot of big game artists coming in, which, again, it's the communities that run. It's the community games that typically tend to win out.
Well, yeah, we got DICE coming up. We have, well, 3, I don't know. They said, I think I heard E3's coming back or something like that. And then GDC. So like those 3 are the ones that are more like, more like CES, but like PAX is like it does have like a community aspect. They had a PAX in San Antonio for a while.
Yeah.
And, I didn't get a chance to go to it, but it was like, as soon as I moved back to Austin, this was like the last year. And I had just started thinking about getting into the professional side of gaming in 2016, 2017. I was like, oh, I want to do that. I want to go learn. I want to kind of learn what the industry is like, and meet people and whatnot. I mean, before that, I was just a student. Like, I was just like a college student, kind of just doing college student stuff, playing with friends, all that stuff, But when you start to look at things from a career standpoint, it's like, oh, well, how do you go actually learn what a career is really? So, I started that with South by Southwest. So South by Southwest gaming was my introduction into the business side of it all. And that led into DreamHack, and that led into like the Overwatch League and all these other aspects. And in the future development of the Esports Business Network. Like, as an individual, like I was taking it from, like, I think that my age, I'm 31. So like my age, I was still 1 foot in traditional media, like television, and then 1 foot in this new generation. And so like anybody who was born, after me was like, oh, they were all pot committed on YouTube and everything like that. I was still like, there's Hollywood or there's the internet. Like, it was still kind of foot in both doors. But no, as far as community goes, so you were early, like it sounds like you were earlier to getting on to like the mindset of driven Twitch than me. I got into it like kind of like I was like involved, but then I wasn't really. But like from 2015, I would like stream this stuff because I just saw it as a technology. Like I said, I was still like half in traditional media, half out. And it wasn't until like 2018 where I was like, oh, it's all internet, that's the future. Everything's bought in. But like, what was it that like brought viewers back in? Like, what was it that brought the community in at the top of funnel? Because you think top of funnel is, how do you get the attention? Like, how did you get the attention?
So my community was super small, and I mean, you'd play on a server. You'd be playing. My game was Players Unknown Battleground. So you put TTB after your name, your name tag, and then you get someone. You shoot someone, or someone kills you, and then they come into your chat because you're streaming. They have a way to access you, and then they talk shit is usually what happens, and then you become best friends. But if you don't have that if you don't have that stream up, if you don't have that connection, or you don't have that couch, I kind of look or think of it kind of as that couch to sit down next to somebody, then you lose that opportunity. And Twitch has kind of allowed people to be able to do that. Hey, like I killed you 4 or 5 times in a video game. Okay, who is this guy? Like he's obviously cheating. Let me go find. Oh no, he's just a streamer and he plays for thousands of hours on these video games, right? So that's really kind of how it started, and we just started putting together, groups of people, and then hey, when Kyle goes live, everybody jumps on and starts playing video games. And it was really just kind of like the cue to queue up and get in the game. That's again what I think is one of the biggest benefits of Twitch is it really provides that couch space, right? So like you and I were from the past when you want people to come over and play N64, you want 4 friends, you don't jump on the internet. Everyone's got to come to your house to play.
Yeah.
And so Twitch kind of gives you that couch. Now some people's couches obviously turn into full-size stadiums, right? You got Ninja's got 10,000 people watching him. You need a stadium to be able to house that. But yeah, I mean, they are entertainers at the end of the day. But yeah, that's where that's where it's gone.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and I didn't ask you yet, but like, when was the first time you played online? When was because I remember like the PS2, you could connect it to the internet, but I don't think I played online till Xbox. Like, I don't think that I was online till Xbox, and I remember I was playing, I wanna say it was Left 4 Dead or Halo. It was one of the two, Left 4 Dead or Halo, where it was like, all right, 360, Xbox. I didn't do Xbox, original Xbox online either. Like that generation, the PS2 Xbox generation, I wasn't online. And then obviously I kind of know life did in high school on World of Warcraft. So like, that's when I was like online,
Yeah, the World of Warcraft era of gamers, that was a very interesting period of time for a lot of us. A lot of us disappeared and then came back. Where'd you go for 3 years? I don't know if what you would call my first experience of online as the typical experience. I had a friend, it was Warcraft, the original Warcraft.
Yeah, Warcraft.
He was his dad was so it was elementary school for me. So this was 1990 or something like that. His dad was an engineer, so they were able to get 2 PCs. Like this is the only house in our entire neighborhood that had 2 PCs that were next to each other. And there was one cord connected to his, one cord connected to mine, and World of Warcraft had the ability to connect. So you had to have the 2 PCs right next to each other. I mean, technically that's online, but the 2 PCs.
That's like what is it? The cups on a string, like.
Exactly.
But the advanced version of it, I haven't even thought about that, So y'all connected house to house, like a local area network.
No. From room to room. I mean, we were right next to each other. And then
oh, nice.
Yeah, so it wasn't technically online, but it was basically the first, hey, 2 PCs, network. 2 individual PCs network together, communicating and playing.
Yeah.
And that was in elementary school. And there was only one house in the neighborhood that could do it. I think a year later we started getting dial up, but couldn't really game on dial up.
No. Actually, I kind of remembered. I kind of remember because my grandfather, he lives out in a rural area, still lives in the same area. I would play. There was like this lawn mowing game where you would you'd mow the lawn, and that's the only thing that would work on the dial-up internet that he had. And then he got satellite, and I think I might have played like Second Life and World of Warcraft on it at one point in time, but it was just busted. Thank God for Starlink now, it's a whole different universe now. But no, that's interesting. So the online gaming component of things, kind of it changed. And I remember in high school, there was a brief period where this would have been more for you than me because you're a little bit older, is that AIM Messenger and IRC. And it was like my freshman year was the only year, and then text messaging and all that stuff came out. So then it was everybody was off of it. But I remember there was one girl that was I was flirting with on there, that was it. And I remember her screen name and everything, it's it's just hilarious. But no, it's that died, and then it became this. And then, we are actually tech support over here, Discord, you and I, so it's a journey. We still use some of this stuff, TeamSpeak, Ventrilo. I remember those ones being big, but man, it's changed so much. But caveating that, what you have developed in the NetVR is a 3D virtual version of that. So talk about the medium and maybe like what is it that users get out of the experience?
So for us, we're trying to create a second life. We're not creating anything technically new. Really, the second life would be a good ER chat would be another good comparison. But what we're trying to do is we're really trying to bring in that three-dimensional space, right? So when you go to Twitch or when you go to any of these streaming platforms, you're put into just a flat screen. That flat screen has the ability to do three-dimensional space, right? And so a lot of people just, hey, I don't necessarily need that, but the amount of control that you get when you can see the things that are hitting you or that you're interacting with, it really puts the power back in the individual person, right? So think of like a map on like a Counter-Strike map or something like that. You get to choose where you get to go on that map. When you're scrolling around on a 2D screen these days, Facebook and algorithms are positioning that map in front of you wherever you run. So you are stuck pigeonholed into a specific plane that you didn't get to choose to be there. You didn't get to explore through
It's
it.
interesting you say that.
And so basically that's a lot of thought and a lot of context behind it. We have to start somewhere because we're a very small startup. We found a very decent place where the consciousness is exploding in these 2D spaces. You look at a large content creator and the chat walls are just exploding. There's so much content there. What we did is we married this gaming aspect, this kind of Twitch, which heavily focuses in on gaming, with video games that primarily are three-dimensional video games. So it really brings back that three-dimensional couch that you and I used to go sit down on and play Halo with our friends and have to, segregate the screen with little cardboard boxes so we, couldn't screen share or screen snipe. But really what it does is we just we built these theaters, call them theaters for now, but it just allows you to actually see and have a one-on-one look and space with individuals on any type of display.
Yeah. So when it comes to like you talked about two-dimensional, we're talking about three-dimensional, but like for instance, what is the I guess the barrier of entry into between the two-dimensional to three-dimensional space? What are your thoughts there? Because like when I look at discovery on a Twitch, right? It's first you have to be a Twitch user or culturally connected into watching live streams to even be browsing the site to find new creators, right? And then, but let's say you're coming at it from a different perspective, and this is, I guess, more where I'm trying to get at is like with the clients that I currently work with that are creators, solopreneurs, and brands, their goal is to push things to the link in bio, right? They're on social platforms with the clips and everything like that. The stream isn't the streamers, let's say Asmon Gold, which is he's really just like killing it right now on the repurposing side to YouTube. Like it's the tertiary platforms that are drawing in, the attention to somebody who's going to be watching it live, right? And so you're saying between Thenetvr is kind of an in-between and an additional layer that's like, here's a more in-depth experience. Are the creators that you're working with, are they adding this feature into their link in bio so that, you have a Twitch panel, it's kind of like a link in bio, but like where is the top of funnel when creators are coming into the environment?
Yeah, so I mean, our platform is it's dual market, right? So we have content creators on one side, and so if we don't have content creators, we don't really have viewers. There's 33% of viewers out there on Twitch, so 11 million people that want more engagement. What that engagement is particularly is not well defined because, 3 million people, they probably want different styles of engagement. And you could see that stat still exists because Kick came on relatively like 2 or 3 years ago. That added us an engagement piece of gambling. I think gambling is something that I don't want to promote out there in the world, but hey, Saudi Arabia loves it. So they keep throwing money and getting that platform going. I'm not into gambling, but this gaming platform that we kind of provide gives that engagement piece, and it does solve that problem. So we do know that there is a problem out there that people want more engagement. That's on the viewership side. On the content creator side, content creators want to be able to push more material. They need more revenue streams. Gamers specifically buy digital assets all the time. They get in their video games, they'll jump in, they will buy a t-shirt or a skin for their character to make them look custom to how they feel that day. That's where we sell. That's where we come in. So we now give that that content creator a private room or a private store for them to sell their idea and their brand. And then the viewer can then help the content creator by purchasing in. And then what this really does is it really gets around, it's a very interesting because it's a different way of supporting a creator, right? So you can support your creators through subscriptions, you can support your creators through donations, but a lot of payment platforms they'll rake in almost up to 30, 40, 50% sometimes, on the creator for a very small transaction. Because we transact in our currency, in our video game currency, we're able to give content creators on the other side a bigger buyout, right? It's a bigger percentage, which helps. It helps them, helps us, it helps get viewers putting more of their hard-earned money towards the content creators.
Yeah, and then I think you had one more piece there, which was the brands, right? So how do the brands engage with the platform?
Yeah, so I mean, if you have a sponsorship deal, like you're a content creator and you got like a Logitech sponsorship deal, hey, you can put a sponsorship logo inside your theater, right? There's 3D space that's out there, so it's always there. It's always going to be blatantly there. You don't have to pause the entire stream to see that brand or have that engagement, right? So you look left, you look at your friend left, and over their shoulder on the side of the wall is a Logitech logo, right? It also allows us to be able to go and create a Logitech shop. It's a 3D virtual shop. So, hey, someone wants to create, or hey, I got free headphones, run over to the shop and go see if you can find them in there. You do scavenger hunts. There's a lot of different things that you can do inside of the 3D space that you can't really do on a web page.
Yeah, it's interesting, like we're having this conversation because my business has shifted. I am bringing back the podcast, and what I'm looking at, the way that I'm doing this is I have my personal brand, and then I have the network of people that I've met over the time focusing on the gaming industry. I would say you're somewhere in between, right? So I'm like, all right, I'm going to publish this on both of my platforms. So I'm going to publish this on the business side. I'm also publish this on the personal side. And so it's going to get two different sort of perspectives on it, because my personal side was very driven on as a creator, kind of more of like a personal life, like lifestyle type actions. But when I shifted my personal brand to be kind of client focused in a way, so like now I'm working with creators, solopreneurs, and brands, but I'm working based on my experience working in a B2B capacity in sort of a C2C kind of B2C capacity now.
Yep.
And so like now that I'm focused on these type of creators, I'm putting them in places like TikTok. I'm learning like, okay, so what are the monetization limitations? And so when you said like the platforms take a huge cut, like Twitch takes a huge cut, it takes an unbelievable cut. Like I look at the gym system and right now it's complicated too with the US ban on TikTok. Now, if you're in the US, you have to go to the website to buy the tokens, and then the tokens get spent in the environment. And that's two-dimensional, right? So like what you're mentioning about the frictionless, transactions for purchasing gems and everything like that in your environment, coins, whatever you want to call it. Like that is something, creators, I think, they're not looking enough. And so like the only way to do that is like coming on podcasts like this and evangelizing about, your opportunities. So like, what was the approach? I guess I didn't ask you this, but like, were you always business focused when you entered into even being a content creator, or were you artist focused? What was your like thought process when you got into the business?
Like when I became an entrepreneur, I guess that'd be.
I mean, that's what I'm kind of asking is like, were you always an entrepreneur, or were you like, were you just like, oh, this looks cool, I'm gonna go play games online? Like me, I was just like, oh, I'm just gonna go play Madden on stream. I didn't think of it as a monetization tool. Like I felt like I don't know, I can only explain it as like, oh, I was a baby or something. Like I started to pick up these tools, and then it was like, and then I realized I knew people were paying things, but I didn't realize that everybody could make money. Like I didn't look at it that way, and I didn't think of it as a business. I just thought of it, oh, people just mess around on the internet and make money.
I guess I wanted to do something for myself. I mean, I wanted to do something for myself 6 years ago. I mean, I had a life change. Life change, a big life change with a significant other. And that kind of pushed me into gaming, kind of probably, sped up that life change a little bit faster. But
Okay.
it was really for me. I mean, becoming an entrepreneur, I didn't necessarily start it with that mindset. I just knew that where my passion lied within the gaming, within the 3-dimensional virtual space. that's where my passion lies. I think I've met so many people through the virtual space. I've had incredible interactions. I've also had not great interactions with a lot of people in the virtual space, but in general, I do believe it's way more efficient. It allows for consciousness to flow as long as everyone's doing it with a good understanding. But it was a passion project, and then I've just been learning ever since. Been learning to do capital, trying to raise capital. We're technically in a SaaS. We're a video game. You go to a video game production studio. We've pitched to a number of video game production studios. They're like, "Where's your narration? What's your artistic style?" We don't have any of that. We're still creating a video game, but we're using a video game engine, but you don't have any of that. So studios are like, "No, we don't want to talk to you." We talked to venture capital, and they're like, "Hey, we you don't have enough traction yet. We just don't like you." Really, is usually what we get from venture accelerators. Same kind of thing. Then you go, "Hey, bank loan. Let's go get bank loans so we can pay for."
It's still connected. Can you hear me? What happened? Oh, okay. He disconnected. He must be getting reconnected. I don't know. Hold on. We're getting reconnected. I think you might have disconnected.
Yeah, Starlink.
Well, I have Starlink too, man. It's like Starlink to Starlink.
It cuts immediately, and then it'll come back.
I think it switched your output. Maybe.
Is that better?
Let me see.
Did it come back?
Yeah, that's better. I think I can.
Okay.
I could hear myself. It's fine. It doesn't matter. Let's keep going. No, I was gonna say. You kind of eye-opening kind of that. I was thinking artists, like there are a bunch of people get into it because they're like they have an ego. They want people to see them. They're like that's their driving factor. There's the socializing component where like you want to connect with other like-minded people. You want to like build the community, and then there's a business component which is like you want to make money off of it. So like I feel like there's different ways that connect. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yes,
cool,
I can.
Okay. Cool. But yeah, there's that trifecta there. But then I guess the thing that I was going to pivot into was like. You mentioned all those struggles, but one of the main things I was thinking was like the differentiating factor that you have to a lot of other developers is you have a launcher, right? So like you have an independent launcher that's built on Unity, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. Finding a launcher is tough.
Yeah, so you have the capability of doing things that other people don't have to do because you went full proprietary launcher as opposed to like utilizing a Steam or utilizing a third-party launcher to create your environment.
Yes, but that is a lot more development that needs to get done before you're able to just, hey, get on these platforms. I mean, for us, really to get on the platforms, they want a significant portion of revenue. And for us, we don't have any revenue. We didn't have any funding to get us through that time or that period. So we've been forced to go down, hey, what is the cheapest way to get revenues? It's a lot longer path and it's a lot more technical development, but in the end, hey, the platforms didn't want to help us out and be like, hey, like we want to start cheap. So yeah, we're very lucky that we're able to sell our vision and we have enough developers out there that want to work on the project.
Yeah. So, but with a first party launcher, you can implement things into your environment that like you would be struggling if you went with somebody else where they would they want a rev share of it, right? So like you can implement a digital asset marketplace for your creators to then sell, merchandise the audience when they attend a.
Well, we're still stuck because depending on if you sell it through Apple Store is going to try and take a cut. You sell it through Android's going to want to take a cut. You sell it through Facebook Marketplace, they're going to want to take a cut. So at some point, no matter what, being alone, having your own stand-up launcher. However, you almost look like a criminal because it looks like, oh, hey, what's this application doing? It's going to take all my data. I mean, a lot of people go to web browsers because they don't want to download an application anymore, right? So we all trusted that web browsers, and then people figured out how to get it on the back end. But yeah, so for us, again, that was one of the big things is, hey, making sure that we were standalone and able to give the money, like if we are launching on a platform, provide the opportunity to open that door. We don't want to end up in a fight, the epic Apple fight. We don't want to do that. But at the same time, some of these marketplaces are pretty predatory. I mean, they don't leave you much revenue to be able to make money. You know, we're selling $5. They don't care. Like they just don't.
Yeah,
They only care until you're making $5 million, and then they want your business.
man, you hit on a point there that kind of like sparked an idea in my mind, because like since I've been changing my business and focusing on the personal side, I bring in a lot of my affiliate or relationships from the B2B side, because I really was pushing for my LinkedIn. That was where I was like really focused on growing my LinkedIn. And when I was really in the 2020, 2021 time period where everybody was like focused on esports, it was just like the hottest thing. I was able to grow really fast on the B2B side. And I got my partnership with Tipalti, but with them, you know, they're focused on these marketplaces and the ways that they can facilitate the transactions. And we run into a lot of challenges when it comes to international market. In certain markets, the conversion rate, you know, it doesn't necessarily, Asian markets, particularly like China, Japan, Korea, like the transaction rates, they can't really be competitive there. And so like when it comes to like the VTuber space, like it's been really challenging to get the right deal in that space. And I've spent the year and a half kind of focusing on the space and trying to figure out, okay, you know, is there any possibility? And in the US market, there really isn't anybody trying to do that. There's no real marketplace for it, because it's everybody who's in the US market is going to the international markets to buy digital assets from them, whether it even be CSGO, like even CSGO, I think like CS Roll and all that's Eastern Europe, you know, like they're buying outside of the US market. And I think that the US market, you know, needs more companies like yours that is offering a virtual marketplace. But, you know, you mentioned like people don't like to download these things, right? DeepSeek came out and I was like, I'm not putting that on my phone.
Exactly.
I'm going to go to the browser.
I'll do everything through the browser.
Yep,
I'll do DeepSeek through the browser, but you know, they can take it off the back end, but yeah, I don't want an application on my computer. It's a challenge. But I think a lot of people need to just understand or understand what applications are doing. I think a lot of people think that, hey, they're safe behind a web browser, but really a lot of those, I mean, when we were kids, we were all downloading, you know, viruses between every other song that we were downloading on Napster, right? So, hey, or this application
and
install this
adult
application
content that we were watching.
Yeah, I mean, there was all that stuff, right? That you were getting, and then, you know, you'd end up with a virus. So, okay, so let's just not install applications on our computers anymore. But it's interesting. You look at phones, right? Temu, a great competitor to Amazon, like basically an Amazon from a different country, you can't purchase through a web browser. They want you to get the application because it allows them to directly connect to you in a way that's kind of viral. It's kind of virus. It has the ability to be, when you go into a Walmart or something like that, right? You're exposed to Walmart store. But when you get to leave that store, you're leaving, and you have that control of either being in Walmart space or not being in Walmart space. When you go to these applications, that Walmart store is over you wherever you are going. They know everything. It really, a lot of people don't quite understand that virtual space is here, and it's very daunting. It's very costly if you don't understand it, because I mean, they're making billions of dollars off of the conglomerated data that you're providing to large companies in applications. Having said that, we are an application, but at some point, applications process data better. They process bits better and faster, which is very important. It's much more efficient, saves power, saves electricity, saves energy. But at the same time, you have to have a trusted data. You have to have a trusted operating system or application that you're running.
Right. It's interesting you say that, because then you look at like, you know, when Russia was cut off from like the OPEC like region, like the whole country, McDonald's, everybody left, right? But all those stores got converted into like GTA versions of them. So you like McDonald's and all this, you know what I mean? So go to Russia, you can get pretty much the exact same product, you know, but like it doesn't say McDonald's on it anymore. It says like some weird obscure thing, you know, so it's like,
just rebrands,
you know, you look at it, just complete rebrands. So like, but like when you look at what's happening is like you mentioned the Walmarts, it's like so much market dominance. Like Walmart is a store that we like use. I mean, we use for groceries all the time. There's the regional HEB, you know, HEB, but like, you know, and then you have Amazon. So there's really like the internet version, the market dominant, and then the local guy, right? And I think Whole Foods, like, you could probably get something from there, but like that's still Amazon, you know what I mean? So like it's very restricted in that regard. And so like, yes, everything is an app now, and it's like everything is gamified. So it it's like you either accept it and you start to utilize it, and you do these little things. Maybe they don't make any sense, like loading DeepSeek in the browser. I don't know, like obviously my thought process is it's a cookie, right? But putting the app on your phone, it just seems like, from what I understand, that's like adding a spider that's connected into you.
It gets that permissions, right? All those permissions that we were struggling with before. It wasn't the permissions, it was the hardware.
But no, yeah. So like, what about so like your process? I've been through the process, and I know like I'm working with other developers that are doing different use cases, right? So like one use case with this other developer that I'm working with, Lola, their use case is virtual compute. So like, you load up their launcher, and then you can spin up an instance of a virtual computer, right? That's effectively the same thing that you're doing, but you're doing virtual environments. So you're launching a launcher, and you're loading up an instance of something. And then that action that you're taking is action specific, right? Well, now, do you see there being other automations in your offer, or even like, are you Web3 now, bringing back the Web3 conversation? Are you thinking about these things like AI, automation, Web3 with the Thenetvr?
Yes. So I have a very uncanny position on Web3 and crypto and virtual currency. How many people, when's the last time you used actual cash to pay for something?
Man, no.
Yeah. So I think, what were you paying with? You're paying with digital currency.
Yeah, I would say debit card or credit card. Yeah.
A debit card or credit card is literally virtual currency. It has been virtual currency for a very long time. But a lot of people will be like, that's not true. And I'm like, well, why not? You're trading ones and zeros on a ledger. It's a standardized ledger. What Bitcoin did with the decentralized ledger control, a ledger is a database. End of story. Ledger is a database. That was amazing. What they used, they basically used the internet, and they used processing power and data to create a new coin, a new way of trading. I get very scared because a lot of people don't quite understand that hey, I'm whipping out my debit card. That's not actual cash in your hand. So if the dollar went to crap tomorrow, would it be the same in your virtual account as you having cash in your hand? I would question that in like a doomsday kind of scenario. So to go back to it, NFTs, ledgers, we'll have a centralized ledger. We will allow individuals to take their ledger and turn it into a decentralized ledger. But people need to understand the risks of doing that. You look at a lot of the video games that came out, Axie Infinity was a great one. Hey, all these kids started making a bunch of money in the boom, and then boom, rug pulled. You end up having rug pulls because everyone's like, hey, I'm going to give 10% of all of the money to the market, and then I'm going to take that 10% for me, and I'm going to go walk away, and then it devalues everything, or it makes everything not worth it. The Federal Reserve, on the other hand, they print money to do that exact same kind of thing. And then they control it, and they send it out and sell it to people that supposedly have cash. But for me, NFTs, blockchain, it's very important that we allow decentralization to happen, because I do think that it is a better. But the problem is you run into a lot of caveats. Hey, I had some kid that's 5 years old that sold his asset to somebody, and he didn't mean to do that, and now he's upset. It's $5. It was a mistake. I can monitor and see where all those transactions go. If it's on the blockchain, I can't get that information back unless those two accounts reconcile with themselves. They can reconcile with themselves, but that individual is looking at me and saying, you need to get that back, right? So a lot of people have gone to like FTX and be like, FTX, you're the problem. Well, if FTX controlled the entire blockchain, then maybe it was a problem. But if they didn't control it, then you're on the other side of it. So I think the market still needs a lot more understanding of bits and what bits are. And that's one thing that we drive. That's one of our mission statements, of driving people to understand the difference between atoms and bits, the difference between a physical dollar bill and a debit card. But until I see the full market, like, we'll just keep kind of preaching the understandings of, hey, It's bits and atoms, and they're very different, and you need to be consciously aware of what reality you're in.
So at this, at this stage, you're saying that you're thinking of virtual currency, which is like a My2K or like, virtual currency like NBA 2K or something like that is like the most secure way of handling the process. So similarly like bits or like coins on TikTok.
Yeah, Robux, what
Bucks,
bits? Yeah, Twitch.
V-Bucks.
Yeah, Twitch has bits. We have Lux, so we call our currency Lux. But again, those are all centralized ledgers. Twitch has a centralized ledger of bits. We have a centralized ledger of Lux. So we are a centralized platform, just like everybody else. And those are the ones that tend to win out. When companies go Web3, a lot of gamers are like, okay, where's the rug pull? Where's the rug pull? There's a lot of distrust that a lot of people that are be like, oh, come play our Web3 game.
Yeah. So what do you think about the AI? Because like I think a lot of artists, creators, ego-driven people are anti-AI. Like they are anti-crypto.
Well, so correct. A lot of gamers anti-crypto because there's just so many rug pulls. I think a lot of gamers would be like, yeah, Bitcoin's kind of cool, but my dollar's safe. The government's got the dollar back, so I'm safe. I don't need another form. Right? Gamers are usually actually very, very smart, and they're very, very smart individuals. Sometimes I throw that with a caveat, but typically when they see things like a Bitcoin or something like that, they're whoa, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? Where's the game? Where's the game to be played? AI is another game to be played. So we had NVIDIA, OpenAI released a new way of processing bits, which was really cool. They used 3D processors along with the CPU to create this new way of being able to absorb a lot of bits and then process it out quickly. So just like manufacturing back in Henry Ford created the manufacturing line. It wasn't just hey, sit down and build one. It was, hey, you build this and then you do that step over and over and over again. AI basically created that process. So DeepSeek came out, just 2 weeks ago, and they're like, oh, hey, it's just a process. Let's just copy, Control-C, Control-V. Copying processes is super easy. It's nothing new, but you need a company to be able to like do that. So a lot of things in the last 2 or 3 or 4 years that have come out, or they're just new ways of doing it, but it's not necessarily a way of making money or adding value to people. It's just better processing. And a lot of people are like, oh, we're going to process all this information. I'm like, well, you don't need to process that information. I mean, okay, it's a faster Google search, but where's the product?
Right.
Like, where's the product?
So let me ask you 2 questions, and I don't know how you're into this, but what is your opinion on DeepSeek? And do you think they're telling, well, okay, one, do you think that they have access to NVIDIA cards that they're not supposed to have? And then 2, do you think they're lying about the amount of money that it took to accomplish copy paste?
Great questions. Great questions. OpenAI was originally open source, right? So the copy-C, Control-V, I mean, that's pretty easy to do, right? I mean, I paid a developer $5 million to copy OpenAI. I mean, if you look at China, what has China done the best in the last 50 years? We gave them all the manufacturing processes. They just copy-pasted it.
Products.
And they just copy-paste. I mean, they're great at it. And all they did is hey, here's an open source project, copy-paste.
Yeah. Or even not, like the Apple stores that are out there, like straight up copyright infringement.
Yep.
Straight up IP.
So for me, I think China is very much more in the let's evolve, let's push it. Like they have way more electric vehicles, they cost less.
True,
because they pay people less. Their developers over there they're not charged as much. Would I download the application? I've used it in a browser. Would I download the application? No, I won't download Temu. I won't download because I don't want applications. Again, to go back to the applications typically are a little bit scarier. When I disconnect from a web browser, pretty much disconnected. They got all my information that they were able to take out of the cookies and whatnot. But at the same time, so we've been talking a lot about bits within our mission statement. We talk about time, space, and matter. This is about space, right? So countries have borders for a reason. It's super important, and I think it's becoming much more relevant with the current administration that has taken over. That borders are going up, and they're going up. They're getting higher. They're putting tariffs are a border type of thing. Does that help or hurt the United States? It will hurt. It will hurt, in my opinion. But at the same time, if you're an American and you're supporting China by downloading DeepSeek, is it cheaper? Is it better? Is it faster? I don't know. I mean, compare your answers with DeepSeek and OpenAI, and sometimes you get different answers.
Yeah.
But at the same time, for me, it really goes down to understanding what space you're in. So we talk a lot about space. We talk a lot about boundaries. The United States has boundaries, and we have a current culture that we deem is acceptable here. You and I are gamers. Cheating is not discouraged in China, right? How many cheaters do we get, or cheating applications from China? That's a different cultural norm. It is okay to cheat, don't get caught. It's okay to cheat, don't get caught. In the United States, if you're a cheater, you're a cheater, you're a cheater, you're a cheater. You know, it's that cultural aspect that we get and that we grow up with, but we're within our space, we're within our boundaries, we're within our borders. So DeepSeek, hey, the United States is going to give this out for free. They copy pasted OpenAI. I assume. Do I think they're lying? I don't know. I don't have any proof of it yet. I think people are trying to find out, but I don't see what, I mean, other companies, I mean, look at how many open or AI companies are out there right now in the United States. I mean, all they did was copy paste. China just did it their own. And the application's been pretty buggy, to be honest.
Well, there's only so many hardware collectives, AWS, Google, like that have the hardware capacity to operate. So it's the real question is, okay, well, how much energy, time and space did they have, and if they were embargoed on what they said they were embargoed on, then that's what ultimately I think that people are wondering. And I think people are wondering, like, at least from the US perspective, I think they're wondering, did they clone the chip? And then they were able to figure out, okay, now they could just mass produce the chip. And then it's like, okay, well, they're not getting NVIDIA cards. They're making their own chip that's just a carbon copy, over there.
Look at Tesla. Look at Tesla. They're struggling with the same thing. They just copy paste over there, right? They don't let American companies in, right? So if you go back and look at like the Uber, when Uber tried to get into China, it was basically a no. It's a different type of culture over there. I do question, I mean, a lot of people so we had the TikTok ban, or the TikTok ban that's still being, I still question it. America, it was the land of the free, home of the brave. So, hey, we're free to use what we want, but are you going to buy American or are you going to buy Chinese? And we, day over day, continue to buy Chinese, continue to buy stuff that is made in China because it's too expensive to manufacture it in the United States. But again, that goes back to, hey, are we being responsible about, and as the borders go up, I think you're going to get a hard slap in the face of paying somebody $2 an hour when the real reality over here is that they're worth $15 an hour. Well, that's going to make the price of everything go up. And I mean, China's done that too, right? So China, I think, manufactures out to places in Africa and India. So China's kind of copying the United States, market. Hey, it's much cheaper to produce something over here or over here. Depending on, again, it goes back down to, you look at, I love the breakdown of like an iPhone where they're like where each of the costs came from and what country they came from.
Yeah.
Those are awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's the irony, right? It's like the TikTok ban right now is between Google and Apple, really. Like the US has already been like, okay, like let it be, but Apple and Google have decided to not let it be. So then there's a whole other corporate America discussion that supersedes whatever governance, we currently have, because it's not obstructed at the government level. It's currently obstructed at the corporate level.
Yeah.
The private level. So it's like, okay, well, what is this really? Because, chips and stuff for the iPhones, what are they made out of? They're made out of Foxconn or whatever in China, so it's like that's the confusing part about it all. But hey, man, as we wrap up here, I want to give you opportunity to let the audience know how they can learn more about the NetVR, learn more about Kyle, and what does it take to get into the ecosystem that you're operating in?
So right now we're still pretty closed alpha. We have a lot of little things to work on with the application. So the netvr.com is a quick, easy, and we've got a Discord link that should be able to take you into our Discord, our public Discord channels. And then for just me personally, I typically I'm on LinkedIn because it's not within the gaming space. So it's far enough away that if I promote or do anything over there, it's been an adventure as an entrepreneur. And so I typically kind of take steam out. We've been told no a lot by a lot of individuals, and we've been through a lot of coaches. So LinkedIn, I've got some decent information on, hey, if you're trying to start a video game, kind of follow me along there. But yeah, the game we're getting very close to an open beta, or kind of a private beta, hopefully within the next month or two, but we want to have monetization within the game first before we release. most video games will just release and try and get that traction number up. We don't have any funding, so we have to make sure that monetization is built in day one before we start, burning server costs, keeping the video game up.
Yeah. So did you say website URL?
Thenetvr.com and Kyle at Thenetvr.
Sweet. Yeah. And for everybody who's tuning into the Return podcast, thank Kyle for coming back on and everything like that. I'm hoping to do more of these podcasts very soon, interviewing people like Kyle who have a platform that's helping monetize this digital economy and everything like that. You can find me at Trent Knox on most of the platforms, or at Trent Knox TV. TrentKnox.com for all your creator economy, digital economy, passion economy needs. Until next time, I hope you have a wonderful one. Thank you for tuning in. Leave a comment below and have a great one. Bye-bye.